From yesterday. No. Okay, cool. Awesome. Let's,
Oh, wait, I do have a question from our Sling yesterday, just really quick.
yes.
In my craft clearance, it gave me on 3,000, expect 7,000 ones a minute. But after that,
Yeah.
I was given another instruction just to concept that.
Oh, yeah.
That I use that like.
Oh, yes. So
Even if it hadn't been 10 minutes.
even if it hasn't been 10 minutes. So if ATC, so what he's talking about is craft clearances. And in his craft clearance, I told him climb maintain 3,000, expect 7,000 minutes after departure. So that's just you're expecting to decline. Sometimes they'll give it to you earlier, sometimes they won't give it to you at all. But if they, whatever they tell you, like ATC tells you over radio, that supersedes your clearance essentially. Yeah. Good question.
Do you mind if I pick out that?
Yeah.
So when it says expect to climb up to 7,000 after 10 minutes, do you do at the 10-minute mark a 500-foot climb up to 7,000?
No, you do not climb unless they clear you to climb. It's just they're telling you to expect it. And it's also for lost comms more specifically than anything. Yeah. But the expect is not a clearance to climb, if that makes sense. Yeah. All right.
So you have to wait for their clearance before climbing up to 7,000 after 10 minutes.
Yes.
So it's around 10 minutes that you would request it, right?
So you can request it, but you can also expect it. The reason that they do you guys know why they give you an EFC time? Like why they say, where is this? Why they tell us, to expect like another altitude later.
I'm assuming it's to just confirm you have comms constantly throughout the flight.
Not necessarily. So it's actually probably mostly for traffic. So for here, they give us 10 minutes because we have like the San Diego class Bravo. So if they have somebody going over us or they need to separate us for traffic, that's why they tell us to wait those 10 minutes. But hello, if not, sometimes like that traffic isn't a factor and then they'll just tell you to climb 7,000 like immediately. Most of the time when they'll tell you to climb your expected altitude within like a few minutes of contacting SoCal departure. It just really depends on if there's traffic or not. They just don't want to immediately give you that clearance and then there is traffic and now you're in the way of somebody else. Does that make sense? Okay. Yeah. Where am I going? Oh, risk management. Okay, so today, I'm not using the Sling slides, I'm using my own slides actually. We're gonna be talking about risk management. Shoot. I'm actually gonna erase the board real quick. Cause I don't like the way that looks. All right, so risk management. All right, you can ignore the objective and the content. Well, actually, this is the objective of the content of today. Have you guys ever seen this risk management handbook before? Yes. No, that's okay. I didn't see it until CFI training, but it's honestly, it's not that long. It's literally like this thin. Everybody should get it and should read it. It's really good for your own personal training, risk management training. It's also very good for CFI training because you will have to do a risk management lesson on this. It's a great handbook overall, honestly. I really actually enjoyed reading it. If you can enjoy reading a handbook, but so that's a really good resource for that. Also, another good resource for risk management and aeronautical decision making is Advisory Circular 60-22. And this just talks about ADM research and development and essentially like how we can make good decisions as pilots. You can be a great pilot, you can fly really well, you can know what you're talking about, but if you don't know how to make good decisions in the aircraft under stress, then well, that's like a good chunk of what your job is. So this is something that's really, really, really important. And it's also what keeps us safe. So for example, this one goes through hazardous attitudes, dealing with them, stress and flying, risk management, identifying the enemy and teaching ADM. So that one's not as applicable.
Identifying the enemy.
Yeah, I don't really know
I love
that.
that.
Yeah, I kind of really didn't remember it talking
I
about
remember
like
that.
that.
General.
Oh, I guess like the enemy of aeronautical decision making. Interesting. But yeah, this is a really good advisory circular. It's not very long. Or maybe it is. I don't remember. Okay, actually, but it's good. Read it. Yeah. Okay, cool. So our top 4 leading accident. Can you guys see even though my head's over here?
Yeah.
Okay. Our top 4 leading accident causes are loss of control in flight. These parentheses are just the way that they're identified, like in the system. I don't know why they do it like that. They just do. Loss of control in flight, controlled flight into terrain, system component failure, power plant. So like if your engine fails, and fuel related, which like we talked about yesterday, should not be running out of fuel on your flight. These causes are what are considered the final result. Like this is what happened and this is why this person crashed or this is why there was an accident. But the common thread between all these accidents is inadequate risk management. So why are we learning about risk management? Can some of that? Exactly. No, yeah, literally, it's as simple as that. So flying, like as we know, it's inherently risky. Every time you're taking off, you're taking a risk. Every time you fly to another airport or go across country, you are taking a risk. But we as pilots, it's our jobs to mitigate those hazards and risks to make flying safer. Cool. All right. So we have 2 things, a hazard and a risk. So a hazard is a present factor that could potentially affect the future safety of flight. And a risk is the potential consequence of an unmitigated hazard. Do you guys know what mitigate means? Yeah, okay. Yeah, I was just making sure we're all on the same page. So I like to think of it as a cause and effect. So a hazard is the cause. If you don't deal with said hazard or cause, it will create that effect, therefore that risk. So a hazard is a condition that could cause an accident, and the risk is the outcome of that hazard. It's our jobs as pilots to identify, analyze, and mitigate risks in order to increase safety. So for example, we have this standard, everybody likes to use this example, like a nick in a prop, that's a hazard. Pilot fatigue is a hazard. Weather is a hazard. Can anybody else give me an example of a hazard?
A terrible passenger or a passenger.
A passenger, yes, or an intoxicated passenger, that's a hazard. Yeah, anybody else?
Traffic.
Say it again?
Other traffic.
Yes, exactly. Other traffic is a hazard. Yeah. Fatigue, yeah, fatigue is a hazard. There's birds, yes, birds are a hazard. There are many things that are hazards. And it's important that we're recognizing them every time that we fly. All right, good. Silly little keyboard, it's getting on my nerves. Let me just, there we go. Okay, so hazardous attitudes, whether we like to think it or not, our attitudes make a very big difference about who we are as people and how we fly as pilots. Attitude influences our behavior, and we have to really consider our own attitude before responding to hazards or situations. Our attitude affects our perception of hazards and the overall risk management process. So we have these 5 main hazardous attitudes: the anti-authority attitude, don't tell me what to do; impulsivity, the do something quickly attitude, which I feel like this is something that we're all very guilty of, more than we would think, because especially like in emergency situations like engine failure, our whole thing is like, let's do something quickly. So it's very easy to fall into these hazardous attitudes without even realizing it. And then we have invulnerability, it won't happen to me; macho, I can do it; and resignation, what's the use? So essentially the whole process is you're supposed to recognize the fact that you have a hazardous attitude, and when you do, state the corresponding antidote. So for example, if you recognize that you're moving really quickly because you feel the need to act impulsively, you're supposed to be like, hold on a minute, that's a hazardous attitude, recognize that, and go, not so fast, think first. So these are really important, just you're always want to be aware of your mental state and your attitude towards flying. And I guess your flight as a whole, if that makes sense, yeah. Not if that makes sense, no, that does make sense. Cool, okay, so the first step in risk management, obviously you have to identify your hazards, and how can we do that? The PAVE checklist. So the PAVE checklist is really helpful to identify our hazards in the 4 categories pertaining to our flight. So using these 4 categories captures most of the hazards that we would normally encounter in flight. So obviously you guys know this PAVE checklist, we have pilot, aircraft, environment, and external pressures. And this, why is external pressures lighting? That doesn't really make sense. That's weird. Anyways.
Maybe if someone wants you to fly in lightning.
Yeah, that's a bizarre one to put on, but you know, to each their own.
You just have to get there.
You just have to get there, fly for the rest of the storm, external pressure. So the PAVE checklist is really helpful. It does pretty much capture almost anything that you have to deal with pre-flight. So this is, I feel like, the #1 recommended way to assess for pre-flight hazards. So to start, we have, where's my pen? Pilot hazards. So pilot hazards can be broken down into 2 categories. We have the capability of the pilot and aeromedical factors. So capability being like the qualification. Do you have the appropriate certificate, appropriate category and class rating? Are you current? Are you logging enough time? Are you proficient? Like all these kinds of things. So what are some examples? How can we go through our currency and proficiency as pilots in the PAVE checklist? What's the first thing we can start with?
Flight review.
Flight review, yeah. So how can we act as PIC? So in order to act as PIC, we need to make sure we have our flight review, for example, and then what if we want to make sure if we're current to carry passengers? And how do we stay current to carry passengers?
Your landings. All your landings.
3 landings when? Last year?
Days.
90 days. So the preceding 90 days, we need 3 takeoffs and landings in the same category, class, and type aircraft. And if you're doing those takeoffs, if you're carrying passengers at night, when do those takeoffs need to be done?
Hour after sunset or hour after sunset.
Yes, at night, full stop. So you carry passengers at PIC, carry passengers, or acting as PIC and carrying passengers. This is a new one for you guys. Acting as PIC under IFR, which I don't think we have not talked about that yet. It's literally day 4. I don't know when they bring that up, actually. We can go over that now. You guys want to go over that now? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, you just look like you really want to.
They checked it, so yeah.
Oh, okay. Well, would you like to tell us, how can you keep current as an IFR pilot? Or how can you have,
You can log 6 hits.
6 hits? All right. What's 6 hits?
What if they're in it? What the heck?
So let's go over it. 6
Okay.
instrument, or 6 instrument approach
Oh,
procedures.
Wait, hold on. My
Okay.
6 looks really gross.
6 hit.
6 hits. Okay, yeah.
I love it.
Okay.
You need 6 instrument approaches.
Uh-huh.
You do holding procedures and tasks,
Mm-hmm.
intercepting and navigating.
Intercepting and what's the
Tracking.
Yep.
There's some tracking courses.
I'd be like, yeah, electronic navigation. When do these 6 hits have to be done?
Then 6 count months.
Yes, so in order to stay IFR correct, so in order to act as PIC in IFR conditions, or like IMC, you guys know what I mean by IMC, correct? Okay, so in IMC conditions, within the preceding 6 calendar months, you must complete and log 6 instrument approaches, 1 holding procedure, and intercepting and tracking of electronic navigation. So for example, like a VOR, but that kind of goes hand in hand. When you're doing an approach, you're tracking and intercepting electronic navigation. Does that make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so you have 6 calendar months. If these 6 calendar months have passed and you have not completed your 6 hits, whether that's 6 hits in IMC or in simulated or in a simulator, you can do all those things. You have another 6 calendar months to complete them with a safety pilot. So you cannot fly an IMC by yourself or do IFR by yourself, but you can do it with a safety pilot, complete your 6 hits, and then you will remain IFR current. Does that make sense to everybody? Yes.
What's a safety pilot?
So, good. A safety pilot, is essentially just someone who's making sure you're safe, I guess is like, that's simply a way to put it. But a safety pilot must hold, at least a PPL in the same category and class aircraft. Obviously a current medical, and if you guys are flying in IMC conditions, they must be IFR rated. IMC. They must be IFR rated, yeah. So, safety pilot must hold at least a PPL, same category class aircraft, a current medical, and if you are flying an IMC, an instrument rating. Does that make sense?
The S in HITS is systems, navigation, electronic.
I think it's just,
What is it?
I don't think it stands for anything, I just think no one wants to say 6 hit,
Oh,
they just say
okay.
6 hits. Yeah. I don't
Tracking
think it-
courses,
Yeah, so
using
6,
navigation electronic systems.
oh yeah, I guess you could work, it could stand for systems,
navigation
yeah.
/ electronic.
Yeah, navigation systems, yeah, that works. That's great. Yeah, so if you have gone 12 counter months, you have not completed your 6 hits to your instrument currency, you now have to complete an IPC. I don't like this situation. Wait. Do you guys want me to write out the 6 hits or do you?
Yes.
Oh, okay, cool, that's fine. Let me do that for you. We can take a picture. All right, cool. Yeah, so 6 approaches, 1 hold, and intercepting and tracking of electronic navigation. You have 6 months to complete this. It's been longer than 6 months. You have another 6 months to complete it with a safety pilot that holds at least a PPL in the same category, class, and type aircraft, a current medical, and if you're flying in IMC conditions, an instrument rating. If it's been longer than 12 calendar months, so these 12 calendar months have passed, you must complete an instrument proficiency check with a CFII or a DP, so or IPC, they call it. So instrument. Let me click real quick. Instrument. Wait, no, 6 votes. Then. So,
So if you're over 12 calendar months, you have to do an IPC.
have to, yeah, it's not fun, I mean, it's not fun, you probably have to pay somebody to do it, so it kind of sucks. That's not fun, but you can do it with the CFII or ADPA, and it's basically just going over like. Making sure you're instrument proficient, like how you would do it by, I know, fire view kind of, but for instrument instead. You can actually find all of the IPC requirements, in the ACS for the CFII, because that's part of what we have to be qualified to do. But yeah, does this make sense to everybody? The whole instrument currency thing? Yeah, what's up?
After 6 months, you have to have a IPC.
No, after 6 months, you have to have a safety pilot.
Oh.
Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's not what I have in my notes. It's okay, I'll look up 6157.
Yeah, oh, this is 6157, yeah. So, 6 calendar months, you can do all these things on your own, log your currency. After 6 calendar months, you have to do them with a safety pilot. After 12 calendar months total, you have to do an IPC. You do not have a choice. That you can't do the safety pilot thing anymore. And you can certainly cannot fly an IMC by yourself at that point. Does this make sense to everybody? Okay, cool. And does anybody know how can you log these approaches, or how can you complete these approaches so that they'll count? Like, there's probably a better way for me to phrase that. Like, can I do this approach, if I log an approach in IMC, does that count towards my currency? Like if I do this approach in IMC conditions?
Says you have to log the location and type of each instrument approach.
Yes,
accomplished.
you do. If I do it in simulated conditions, does that count towards currency?
Yeah.
Yeah, so if I wear foggles, I do. Can I wear foggles in VFR conditions and go fly by myself?
No.
No, you cannot fly with foggles and be by yourself. Do not ever do that. I just want to make that perfectly clear. So you can fly in simulated, yes.
I have a question.
Mhm.
Can you do sim training and log it?
We're gonna get there, yeah. So you can fly in simulated conditions with foggles, which is what we all do, because we can't fly in IMC conditions. You can fly in actual IMC conditions, that's fine. This is for your first 6 calendar months. You can do it in a simulator. You can do it in the big simulator with a CFI that counts towards your currency. I did not know this, but you can also do it in the baby sim. So if you want to get current, you don't want to spend the money, you can go in the baby sim, do your approaches, and that counts towards currency. I did not know that until recently, because obviously, like for us, it's all free to use baby sim. So take advantage of that.
You don't need anyone but yourself to do it on the Redbird?
Nope, and barring, you can't log in obviously if you don't have your instrument rating.
Mhm.
Once you have an instrument rating, yeah, but you don't need an instructor on a baby sim. So yeah. So yeah, there's 4 different ways you can do that. When you're with your safety pilot, you can still fly in IMC, they just have to be there. You can do it in VFR, simulated conditions, they have to be there. You can do it in a simulator, they technically don't have to be there, it's a simulator, or you can do the Redbird. But obviously, after this, you have to do an IPC. Does that make sense to everybody?
Mhm.
Okay, cool. Any questions? It's okay for you guys? No? No? Okay, cool. I'm gonna erase, do you guys want to take a picture before I erase it, or, no, up to you, yeah. Okay, cool. I'm actually glad we went over that. So,
In the 6157, it says after 6 months, you have to have a IPC. It says instrument proficiency check, except as provided in the paragraph E above, in the section, a person who has failed to meet the instrument experience requirements for more than 6 calendar months may reestablish instrument currency only by completing an instrument proficiency check. The instrument proficiency check must include the areas of operation.
you're saying 61 what? 57, right?
6157.
Let's look.
Well, I didn't take these notes, but they're pretty new. I have the notes for a safety pilot just like included in the first 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
Hold on, let me see what this says.
All right. So
Maybe I'm reading it wrong, I don't know.
I think you are, which is so fair because these regulations are really confusing. So this is saying instrument experience, except as provided in paragraph E of this section. So that's just like saying that there are exceptions to this. I don't know what paragraph E says. Oh, duh, exceptions. Wow, look at me. Where
Maybe
is
I
it?
read E.
C, okay. Except as provided in paragraph E of this section, a person may act as a pilot in command under IFR or weather conditions less than the minimums prescribed for VFR only if they're basically saying you can act as PIC in IFR conditions. The use of an airplane, powered lift, helicopter, or airship for maintaining instrument experience within the 6 calendar months preceding the month of the flight. That person performed and logged at least the following tasks and iteration in airplane, powered lift, helicopter, airship as appropriate for the instrument rating privileges to be maintained in actual weather conditions or under simulated conditions using a view limited device that involves the following. Blah, 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 blah. Telling us what we need, use of a full flight simulator, all these kinds of things is fine. So within the preceding 6 calendar months, you must log this.
Mhm.
Where does it say?
D's instrument proficiency check. It says if this section for more than 6. Only by completing an instrument proficiency check.
If a person who has failed to meet the instrument. So, okay, so what D is saying, maintaining, within the 6 calendar months, seeing the flight person's log. Where is it going?
The way I read that is if you're not proficient in those 6 calendar months, then you need a instrument proficiency check.
It does kind of, where does it go? So, except as provided in paragraph E of this section, a person who has failed to meet the instrument experience requirements of paragraph C of this section for more than 6 calendar months may reestablish instrument currency only by completing an instrument proficiency check. So what they're saying is that you have 6 calendar months to complete all these things, but after those 6 calendar months are over, after another 6 calendar months, if you don't complete them, for a total of 12 calendar months, you have to complete an IPC. Does that make sense? It's worded really weird because what this is saying, what this is all saying is that you have 6 calendar months to complete this. So that's your first 6 calendar months. And then they're saying here for more than 6 calendar months after you have to reestablish currency. Does that make sense?
I mean,
Kind of. I know, it's just worded really, really weird. Let me see if I can find. See if this is.
I just know like my buddy who does that extra, he has to like be within currency and it's like, if you haven't flown it 6 months.
Yeah, for them, I think it's a little bit different, but because you can still fly, but you can't act as PIC after those 6 calendar months, technically. Let's see if there's like also.
But we can move on.
We can move on. Okay, well, does that make sense though? I can try and get some clarity about that because it is like a weird way of wording it. Because it does make it sound like you, after the 6 calendar months, you have to do it, but they're saying that you have the 6 calendar months to do those 6 hits, and then after another 6 calendar months, if you haven't done them, then you need the IPC. Does that make sense? Okay. All right, cool. So, all right.
As you're erasing this, what regulation was that again?
6157, Jessica?
Yeah.
All right, cool. So, your active PIC, you are current. You are current to act as PIC, you are current to carry passengers, you are current to act as PIC under IFR. You also want to make sure you are proficient. So for me, I like to look at. So this keeps us current, but is currency and proficiency the same? Yes, it totally is. No. So if you are current, just does not mean you are proficient legally, because realistically, like personally, if I only did 3 takeoffs and landings within the past 3 months, I would not feel proficient in flying at all. I already feel not proficient after like 2 weeks of not flying. So you kind of have to set your own personal standards for that. You also just want to look at, so I like to look at how many hours I've had in the past 30 days, last month. And also something to look at is the avionics in the plane. Because you guys aren't always going to be flying slings. We're lucky slings we all have the same avionics. Every single plane is exactly the same basically. But if you go over to CFA, their planes are all a little bit different. Some of them have G1000, some of them have G5s. So, or if you've been training on a 6-pack and vice versa, you've been training on a glass cockpit and you go to a 6-pack, you're not gonna know what the heck you're doing. You shouldn't go and take passengers. So things like that, things that you have to keep thinking about. That looks like mouth, not month. Let me fix that. Month. Avionics. Avionics. So we want to make sure as pilots we are current and we are proficient. And we are making safe decisions in order to go fly. Does that make sense? The currency and proficiency thing? Cool. All right. And then we also have to assess our aeromedical factors. And we all know this checklist. I'm safe. So what's I for? Illness. Are we going to fly if we're feeling sick? For sure.
Safest thing is not to fly.
Exactly. Thank you. Exactly. Medication. Can I be on medication and fly?
No.
It's approved.
If it's approved. So if it's approved by your AME or if it's on the FAA medication, approved medication list, it's on the internet, just go look it up. S for stress. How many types of stress do we have? Acute and chronic. Yeah. Is it okay if we're a little bit stressed and fly? That's fine. Do we want to be chronically stressed though? No. Alcohol.
Supposed to.
Well,
Do that.
yeah. If I had a beer 4 hours ago and I'm gonna go fly, can I legally do that? What's the rule? Yeah, I thought it was throttle. How about my blood alcohol content?
Listing 0.04.
Exactly. Cool. Fatigue. What types of fatigue do we have?
Same.
Same thing. Acute and chronic. Should you fly if you're really, really tired?
No.
Because tired pilots make poor decisions. And E. Everybody uses these kind of differently. Eat, exercise, emotion. I don't know what you guys use.
I use eating and emotion.
Yeah, I use eat and emotion. Some people, what do you
Yeah.
eat? I don't know. Some people say different things. Whatever floats your boat, doesn't matter to me. This one's kind of subjective. So eat, emotion, exercise. Like I'm always like, well, I had a well-balanced breakfast this morning and I exercise regularly. That's not emotion. And I'm emotionally stable. But you should be emotionally stable before you go fly. I don't know. Being emotionally unstable can make you crazy. So yeah, any questions on that? Cool, basic stuff. Basic stuff. Oh, wrong computer. All right, cool. Well, I don't know. I think Gaz told me to put exercise in.
Yeah. It's like what overall health?
I think like overall health, making sure you're like a healthy person in general. Okay, cool. Let me take a sip of water. So, aircraft hazards can be categorized by performance hazards and the equipment of the aircraft. So performance being like what's your aircraft fuel and range, your takeoff and landing, altitude performance, your payload, your weight and balance, and equipment being like, do I have redundant equipment? Do I have backup instruments? Do I have an autopilot? Do I have any inoperative equipment? So what can we go through for the A in PAVE checklist to cover our bases? Equipment, yes, are first, what needs to be on the aircraft in order to fly? Darkening. What, excuse me, what acronym is that? Arrow. All right, what's the A? Does ours expire?
Oh.
No. Yes, exactly. What kind of airworthiness certificate do we have?
Special.
Yes, very special kind, thank you. What's the first R?
Registration.
How often does that expire?
7 years.
Or if the owner dies,
Yeah.
you know, so you guys should know. Second R,
Radio.
if international. O, in our case, QH. And what's W? specific to each aircraft, so that little sheet that we see. And we should always be checking that all the sheets in the arrow are there before every single flight. Should pull it out, check through everything.
Yeah.
Everyone always does it every time.
Every single flight. That's what you say if the FAA asks you. All right, so you guys said, in order to maintain our airworthiness, we have to keep up with our inspections. What inspections do we have to do?
Idiots.
Aviates, yes. Do you guys use 2 A's or 1?
I do.
They're the extra. All right.
I just shove 80 and sort of bolts into one.
Ah, ooh, why did I think right back so much bigger than arrow? Whatever. All right, what's our first A? 80s. How many 80s do we have?
0.
Well, okay, sorry, that's not the right way to ask it. What kind of types, what types of 80s do we have?
Oh. One time. Recurring.
Yeah, good. What's the second A? How often does that need to be done? Annually, yes, thank you, 12 calendar months. Can any mechanic do it? Like if I just have an airframe and power plant, you have to have an inspection authorization to do it. V, what's the V? VOR done every for IFR operations, cool. And then we'll go over those kind of checks later. 1, what is the 1 for? Inspection. If I just own my aircraft and I like fly around for fun, do I gotta do it?
No.
Yep, it's for flight training and for hire. First, this A, every,
24 calendar months.
good. T, every,
24 calendar months.
thank you. And E,
ELT,
every,
12 calendar months.
You said half useful better.
yes, good. And S. And so what's the difference between service bulletins and airworthiness directives?
The manufacturer.
Yes, exactly. So both, yeah. So technically, legally, we do not have to comply with service bulletins. Should we? Yes, we should, because it's a safety thing. But airworthiness directives are issued by the FAA, service bulletins are issued by the manufacturer. So ours come from the airplane factory and from ROTAX, our engine people.
So our service bulletins are mandatory for slings.
What?
Our service bulletins are mandatory for slings. It's in the POH.
Oh, actually, I guess, okay, according to the POH, yes. Yes, they are. Good catch. But according to like legally, like FAR AIM, no. But legally, according to POH, yes, they are. And what was I saying? Yeah, so we have our required instruction documents on board required in maintenance inspections. We also need to have the required equipment. I'm not gonna list this out unless you guys really want to.
Let's
Yeah,
do it.
Do it. Yeah.
You guys are so fun.
Daytime, nighttime, and IF.
Actually, no, wait, that's true. We need to go to the IFR one. May toll flames. You guys are talking more today. I like it.
What you want to do.
Yes, I did. I don't want a boring class. Not saying that you guys are boring, but like, don't be
I
boring.
think that's what you said.
Well, kind of.
Saying we're bored.
Huh?
It's kind of something you're saying we're bored.
No, I'm not. You just, well, it's the first week. Huh?
What?
What? Say it with your chest. I'll take the criticism.
No, I said this is good review is what I said.
Oh, this is good review. Yeah, well, everybody's like, pay visits review. I'm like, yeah, but like, you need to know it, like, the back of your, I hate the side note. I hate the term or the saying, like, know it like the back of your hand. Like, I don't know what the back of my hand looks like. Do you know what anyways? So that's the point. But you need to know pay like the back of your hand because you're gonna be asked this on every single visit. So, cool. So what is a tomato flames?
Get required, you require equipment.
Yes, and what am I calling it? What is the regulation? 91.205. What is A?
Airspeed indicator. Tactile air. Low pressure. Gauge. Gauge. Oh, airspeed. No, it's altimeter. Altimeter. Temperature gauge. Oh, temperature gauge. Fuel gauge. And your light condition indicator. Anti-collision.
Anti-collision what?
Light.
Thank you. Anti-collision like sign, like, okay.
Magnetic direction indicator.
Oh. Yeah, well, yeah. Do we have a magnetic compass?
Nature side.
Yes and no, but like,
But
okay,
no, we don't have a magnetic compass.
we don't, yeah. but HSI is like kind of the right word. HSI is what we see on the screen. What do we have instead of the magnetic compass?
Magnetometer.
Magnetometer, yes.
HSI slave to a magnetometer.
HSI slave, is it? I don't know. That was a good one.
Slave.
That's a classic one. Really.
No, I'm just here. Austin said it, not me. Do you think what?
Magnetometer.
I say magnet.
Oh.
I feel like you're not supposed to say it like that. It's not it.
That sounds wrong.
That's right.
It's because Cass says it like that, so I listen to him say it like that, so I just say it like that.
Magnetometer.
Magnetometer, sorry, my bad. E,
EFC. Seashells.
seatbelts, cool. Okay, that's day. What is flaps?
Like,
Night, so what's the F?
just using lighting lights, collision lights, collision lights,
Source of power.
What's the source of power?
generator,
Alternator.
generator,
All right, what's grab card?
generator, oh, fuck, that's, that part. That part.
That's fine.
G.
Generator.
Oh wait, do you guys know this? We can go over it. Okay, I was just gonna say, yeah, you might know this. Okay, so these are required, so IFR equipment, you have to have all this jazz plus grab cart. So generator or alternator, what do we have?
Generator.
You know, weird, they call it like silly. R is radios, so you need two-way radios. A is altimeter, airspeed indicator.
You don't know?
Altimeter.
I do know it, I swear.
For
The first, there's,
It's altimeter,
and then
a
airspeed,
sensitive altimeter,
it's altimeter and then airspeed
you
indicator?
don't need an airspeed indicator.
Oh, it's
Altimeter.
attitude indicator. Altimeter. This stands for ball. Ball is like turn coordinator. C, you need a clock with hours, minutes, and seconds.
I see.
Thank you, Kennedy, yes.
Okay.
Attitude indicator. R, you need a rate of turn indicator. And D is for directional gyro. So can anybody tell me what a directional gyro is?
So that spins,
Yeah. It's a gyro.
it's like a heading indicator.
Heading indicator, yeah, exactly. So yeah, generator, alternator, you need radios, two-way radio communications, altimeter, a ball, so a turn coordinator, a clock with hours, minutes, and seconds, an attitude indicator, a rate of turn indicator, and directional gyro, so a heading indicator essentially. Any questions on this for you guys? Yeah.
Why does it double up on like source of power for generator?
I don't know.
Cleaner acronym.
Cleaner acronym, honestly, that's probably what it is. Like, same thing with like flaps, like we already have anti-collision lights on a tomato flames, but like, if not, it'd be like flips, it wouldn't be flaps, so.
Is flaps required for JIFR?
Oh, I actually.
No, it's not.
No, right?
Just means, man.
It's just a tomato flames, and then the flaps is for night. Yeah, good question. Any other questions?
Actually.
Yeah.
Going back to tomato flames and flaps, why do they differentiate the dates for both of the anti-collision lights?
What do you mean?
For the way I've written it down, it's been marking one of the dates for tomato flames. The anti-collision light date is different in the far aim than the flaps one is.
The date? What do you mean the date?
If you look at like, and planes have to have anti-collision lights before, after a certain date, depending on their.
Oh,
Okay.
And those two differentiate,
Oh, in the regulations?
yes.
Oh, I have no idea. I didn't even know that. That's an Aaron question. I can't lie. And if Aaron, actually, Aaron actually might not even know. If Aaron doesn't know the answer to that question, actually ask John Supron first. John would know the answer. He like knows the far aim like the back of his hand. I didn't even know they had that. You're saying that, can you pull it up and so I can see that after?
Yeah.
Yeah, any other questions? No, cool. Okay, so we want to make sure we have everything on board. We want to make sure we have redundant equipment, especially in IFR conditions, because if you lose your instruments and you can't see outside, I don't know what you're gonna do. So what do we have? for redundancy purposes?
Backups.
Backup instruments. So what's our main instruments? What the screen gives us our main,
Or G3X.
G3X, yes. What's our backup?
G5.
G5, good. But don't forget, I was reminded of this yesterday. If you lose your G3X, you lose your engine page. So you lose a lot of things when you lose your G3X. So don't forget about that. Autopilot, we have autopilot to reduce pilot workload. Inoperative equipment. What do we do if we have inoperative equipment?
Yeah, flow.
What?
Yeah, flow.
What?
Enough flow. Just
Enough
the flow of.
Oh,
the
inoff.
recording, yeah.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
I was
sorry.
like, what? Yes, exactly. So KOEL, a tomato flame's not there. You placard it, remove it, mark it as an operative and notify maintenance. Cool. Any questions on aircraft hazards? No? Okay. Cool. Cool. Let's take a break. It's 9:53. I want a snack. And then we will work there and we'll fix it. Cool. Cool, guys. Cool.
No. I can do it right now, fresh.
And if you want to see the regulation, I have it.
Oh, yeah, I would love to see it. Oh, let me get 1 second. Is that Olivia? Hi, Olivia. Oh, she can't talk.
Yeah,
Unmuting myself.
I'll just stick it.
Does it like it cancel?
I don't know, it's supposed to clear up at like 1.
Is it 1 to 3?
It's 3 to 5. I know.
I'll see.
Hmm,
We'll see.
we'll see.
What are the odds?
Huh? Honestly, it looks like it's supposed to clear up.
I mean, it's sunny out right now, so.
Yeah. Not surprised.
That is not.
When I pulled up the ceiling was only 2,800, so you could like. Work up the pattern. I was saying when I got here, it was 2,800, so you could still like fly the pattern if you want. It was like clouds all, like a ceiling all the way here from the coast though, I was like, hey.
Yeah, I was just outside for a bit, it looks like it's clearing up.
I just saw Allie out there.
Mm-hmm. She's at +1.
Yeah, I was like,
Mm-hmm.
she was already getting her car, so I didn't say hi, but I was like, oh, hey girl.
Yeah. Okay, we're gonna wait for Kamalo.
Good morning. It's not supposed to expire for 14 days, but I can resend it to you. I can. That might be the other one I sent you, remember? But I'll just send it again so you have a first email and you don't have to go find, go dig for it. I'll just text you when it's in your inbox. And then if you look at your text, FYI, Nick never signed the lease agreement. And he didn't open the email either, so you might just. Hello, reach out to him and make sure you got the email.
All right, so we went over aircraft hazards. Now we have environmental hazards. So I'm gonna erase this. Or, yeah, sorry. Wait. Oh. All right. So what acronym do we use to assess our environment before we fly? NW craft. What regulation is that?
91.103.
Good. So what's the N, I mean, not M, sorry. How many, what types of NOTAMs do we look at?
E, FGC,
What are those two?
domestic.
Yeah.
Go like to the airport.
Mm-hmm.
Like,
Yep. What are flight data center ones?
en route.
Yeah, so like changes to instrument approaches or airspace. Good. W, what is W?
Weather.
Yeah, weather. Nothing special about that. We're gonna go over weather. I think weather's next week. So fun. Favorite task ever. But what is something else that we now have to be aware of? More so because we're flying in IMC conditions. Icing, exactly. So that's something to be super, super aware of. Good. K,
No, going.
do these really apply to us right now? Not really, no, exactly. But still want to mention them. R, why is that important?
See, landing distances.
That's a different one, but yes, well, yes and no, yeah. Well, exactly. You want to like, what if you just didn't look at the runway lights and you didn't know if the airport was 1,000-foot runway? Can we land on that? Like maybe, yeah, theoretically, yes, theoretically, we could, maybe.
So 400 feet is our landing distance.
I would need more than 400 feet.
Yeah.
I'm gonna be honest, yeah, on a good day, I need more than 400 feet. But still gotta know that. Alternates, sorry, I need my phone. Hello? Alternates, yes, so, do you need an alternate for VFR flying? No. Do you need an alternate? Well, have you guys gone over the alternate stuff for IFR? You have. I forgot you're the only one who's not taking this class before. Thank you for reminding me that, because now I'm gonna call anymore. So, alternates. Can anybody tell me the rule for if you need an alternate for IFR?
1, 2, 3 rule.
The 1, 2, what's the 1, 2, 3 rule, Kenny?
I have no idea, tell us who it is.
Well, Aaron came up to me yesterday and he was like, I just found out I'm a Kumu. And I was like, it just bizarre hearing that come out of his mouth.
I thought of that.
I was like,
That would break my brain.
what? And then they were like, he was like, and then John was like, who would I be? I would be like, Kumu John. He was like, so who are you? I was like, I don't know, like Kumu Poi Poi, Kumu Busy. He was like, Kumu Poi Poi sounds like an exotic dish. And I was like,
Yeah.
kind of, but like, not really, but like, yeah. Anywho, so alternates. So you are always required to have an alternate for an instrument flight plan unless, why did I keep turning around? Your destination airport has an instrument approach available, and actually, let me write this down, actually, yeah. Destination has, IAP stands for instrument approach, by the way, available. And the 1, 2, 3 rule. So 1 hour before and after your ETA, the ceiling is at least 2,000 feet with 3 statute miles of visibility, your destination airport, I mean. Does that make sense to you guys? So you always need an alternate, unless your destination airport has an instrument approach available, and it has to be both of these conditions. And 1 hour before and after your ETA, the ceiling is 2,000 feet and 3 statute miles of visibility. Make sense? Yeah? Okay, it's okay if it doesn't. Okay, I'll let you guys process and then we're gonna go a little deeper on this.
It has to be greater than 2,000 feet.
2,000 feet or greater. Yeah, so at least 2,000 feet. Ooh, finished putting this together. It looks great.
What is that?
I don't know, what is it? Well, sure, you have a private pilot license. If you don't know what this is, that'd be really confusing right now.
You should be very concerned then.
Yeah, I should be very concerned. Cool, does this make sense to everybody?
Yeah.
Okay, so there are also some alternate airport requirements, weather requirements. So, alternate weather requirements. If you are planning to shoot a precision approach at your alternate airport, the ceiling must be at least 600 feet and 2 statute miles of visibility. I know you guys aren't really super, most of you guys aren't in approaches yet, so it's a little bit confusing, but just learn the information, it'll probably make more sense later. If you are planning to shoot a non-precision approach, ceiling must be at least 800 feet with 2 statute miles of visibility. And if your destination airport does not have an instrument approach, you must be able to descend from your cruising altitude, so from the minimum en route altitude, descend from that in VFR conditions to the airport for landing. So essentially the airport has to be VFR. Does this make sense to everybody? Yeah, cool. What you get, right?
What is the precision and non-precision approach?
So precision approach gives you vertical and lateral guidance.
Okay.
A non-precision only gives you lateral. Yeah, but we'll get into that more later, but good question. Yeah, basically, a precision approach gives you more guidance. That's why the weather requirements are less.
Okay.
Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, cool. Any questions on this? I'm good to erase it? Yeah.
The destination airport has to have an IMP or instrument approach, a following the 1, 2, 3 rule.
Yes, it has to be both, not one or the other. Good. Yeah, cool. Let me erase this. We need more of this. I don't like that. Okay, cool. So alternate. But also if you, even if you legally aren't required to have an alternate, should you have an alternate?
Yeah.
Always, yes. Just because it's legal doesn't mean it's necessarily the safest decision. So F, fuel. Anybody know IFR fuel requirements?
You need to have enough fuel to get to your alternate, farthest alternate plus 45 minutes.
Yes, day or night. Day, night,
That's
both.
all I know.
So, for IFR flying, you need to have enough fuel to get from your departure, destination, furthest alternate, if you have multiple alternates, plus 45 minutes, day and night. So you know how VFR it's like 30 minutes day, 45 night, 45 minutes day and night, doesn't matter which one. Yeah. And then what is Sling SOP?
For like what, cross country,
Yeah, cross country, yeah.
2 hours.
2 hours, yeah, exactly. So FA is different, but we have to also abide by Sling policy because we're flying Sling. Questions on that? No. Cool. Okay. So fuel, what's the first T?
Take off.
Take off, no.
Take off the landing.
Yes, take off and landing distances. So these are your performance calculations. So calculating your pressure altitude, your density altitude, making sure that with the current weather, your aircraft can perform properly. Because what happens when it gets too hot? Yes, your performance decreases. So if you're trying to fly to Thermal Airport in the middle of the summer, it's really hot over there and you might not make it off the ground in the allotted runway time. So that's why we do those performance calculations, and we are gonna do those eventually, some week. And then the second T, you guys know, this isn't a part of the legal NW craft, but they've told us to add it here at Sling because one of the DPEs really likes it, and it's actually just something you should check for anyway. What's the second T? TFRs, exactly. Where can you check for TFRs? For flight, where else? Yeah, there's a TFR FAA.gov. That one is a little bit better because apparently sometimes ForeFlight doesn't show them all. So I would check that one. And yes. Yes. Yeah. Any questions on that, NB craft?
You over the fuel again?
Yeah, fuel.
What's it? Yeah.
Yeah, so fuel is departure, to destination, to farthest alternate, plus 45 minutes, day and night. Cool. Okay, cool, great. And then finally, we have external pressures. So we all know what external pressures are. Pressures to get to a particular destination at a certain time or leave at a certain time. And this may affect our judgment, especially like with passengers, or even as a commercial pilot. The amount of compensation that somebody may be offering you could affect your decision to fly. So if someone's like, hey, I'm giving you $20,000, fly me right now, and the weather looks bad, that's an external pressure to take that flight because that's a lot of money. Could somebody give me an example of an external pressure?
Lightning, apparently.
Yeah, apparently more lightning than external pressure. It was a crazy one. That was straight from the textbook too, that picture. What else? appointment you have to make, a meeting, yes, so it's important, especially when you're carrying passengers, to be like, hey, you need to be flexible, because you can't rush things, especially when you're flying. Shoo. Cool. So, here, so we've assessed our hazards, and now you have to determine your risk using a risk assessment matrix. So, a risk assessment matrix determines your overall risk level using risk likelihood and risk severity. So risk likelihood is how likely that risk is going to happen. This ranges from probable, so very likely to happen, to improbable, not very likely to happen. And then severity is just like how severe would the outcome be if this risk occurred, ranging from catastrophic to negligible. So, catastrophic being like, pretty bad, then negligible is like, meh. So, for example, a thunderstorm penetration is, if you get penetrated by a thunderstorm, that's pretty bad. So that's catastrophic. And the likelihood is either probable or occasional. So you're cross-matching the likelihood of probable or occasional with catastrophic to get an overall high risk. Anything that falls in kind of the green or this white indicates a go decision. Anything that falls in the yellow or the red kind of implies a no-go decision unless you can mitigate that risk to make it fall in the green or the white. Does that make sense? Okay, cool. Oh, so have you guys heard of a frat tool before? Yes, they just introduced one for us. Actually, let's go find the one that we have, because this one is an FAA frat.
You have to do one before every solo.
Yes, you do. Yes, and then before every
Long
cross country, I
greater
believe.
than 4 hours.
Yeah. And then, Pilot Academy. I think we also have frat. Okay, so, this one is the FAA one. This one's pretty good. So it breaks it down: pilot, flight conditions, airport, VFR flight plan, IFR flight plan, approaches, etc. And basically you fill all this out and it gives you your total risk level. So for example, let's see what would change the risk. So you have less than 50 hours in the avionics or aircraft type. No. We have less than 15 hours in less than 15 days. No. Flight will occur after work. No. All of these are no. But you're flying at night with surface wind greater than 15 knots in mountainous terrain and with a crosswind of greater than 7 knots. You're also flying into an untowered airport with obstacles on the approach and or departure. You're flying on an IFR flight plan with visibility of less than 3 statute miles, and your ceiling is less than 1,000 feet. So you can see that every time you change something, or it raises the risk. So the whole idea is to fill this out based on your current flight, based on yourself, based on the flight plan, the airport, etc., and determine your overall risk level. And same thing, if anything falls in this high or moderate risk, you want to look at what you can do to mitigate that risk. So maybe you don't fly into an untowered airport. Maybe you don't fly at night. And see, that already brings it to now a lower risk. Does this make, yeah, good tool. So it's a great tool to use. And I think the Sling one is pretty similar. Yeah, actually it's exactly the same thing. They just want you to put it in there to do that. So yes, before every solo flight, before every cross-country flight greater than 4 hours, you said? Yeah. So make sure you guys do that. Cool. How do I go? No, I don't want to do that. Cool. So that's the frat tool. There's also an app, a frat app. It's pretty, I don't know. I have it. I don't use it in a minute. So cool. Mitigating risk. So mitigating risk essentially reduces the likelihood or the predicted severity of the identified hazard. High risk, like we talked about, so red and serious risk, yellow should be mitigated. High risks that cannot be mitigated should lead to a no-go decision. And there are a variety of strategies to mitigate risks, and different strategies obviously apply to different hazards depending on what you're doing. So how can you mitigate risk as a pilot? You can use the PAVE checklist. First thing we can do is have personal minimums. What are personal minimums?
personal
Personal minimums.
They quite literally are your personal minimums. Yeah, so they're essentially these safety boundaries that are like, hey, if the weather is outside of this, I'm not comfortable with this situation, I'm not gonna go fly. It's a lot easier when you have personal minimums set for yourself and say, hey, if it fits in this, I'm not going. If it does fit, then I am going. Versus being like, oh, well, the ceiling's 3,000 feet. Like, I don't know if I want to fly in that. Like, having those personal boundaries set for yourself just makes it a lot easier to make those decisions. And obviously, using your I'm safe checklist reduces aeronautical risk. If you can't check off that checklist, you should not be flying in the first place. Oh yeah, personal minimums. We talked about this. So this also goes beyond weather, goes to like aircraft systems, pilot safety and performance. This is, I don't know if this is an FAA one specifically. I think no, it is, yeah. So this one actually kind of goes for the same thing. So how many takeoffs and landings have I done? How many hours have I had? How many instrument approaches? How's my physical condition? How much fuel do I want to fly with? What kind of aircraft, et cetera, et cetera. And then weather conditions and external pressures. So you definitely want to bring this to a check ride, have this filled out and be like, these are my personal minimums, because that shows DP, hey, I'm aware of what I am comfortable and proficient with. And these are obviously going to change over time. Like my personal minimums as a student pilot are not the same as they are now. And they won't be too once you become instrument rated and comfortable flying in IMC conditions. Yes.
Would you recommend using that specific checklist? Because I have a different one.
No, I think a lot of you use the AOPA one. That one's really good too. Whatever floats your boat.
Okay.
I mean, they're all pretty similar. Yeah, whatever you guys use works. Yeah.
Cool.
Cool. Personal minimums. Okay, so aircraft risks. Factoring, how can you mitigate these? You can factor performance data to create safety margins. So if you know that you like runways at least 3,000 feet, only fly to airports with runways of 4,000 feet, using an aircraft with redundant systems or automation to reduce pilot workload. So only using an aircraft that has actual backup instruments, not just one singular instrument set. And also, bringing your ForeFlight in case your screen fails, things like that. Or if you really want to go crazy, bring a paper chart. Like if your iPad dies, your screen goes out, at least you got a paper chart, I wouldn't be great at it, but you have something. And also a thorough pre-flight and post-flight. So mitigating environmental risks, you can go around the hazard or change your flight path, change your departure time and date. Mitigating external pressure risks, you can inform your passengers on the need for flexibility. Like we talked about, hey, like you can't have this meeting set. We have to be flexible about this. But overall, making a no-go decision completely eliminates your risk, because if you're not flying, there's no risk. Yeah, cool. Oh yes, forgot about this. Oh shoot. Okay, so talked about risk management and sort of these pre-flight decisions on how we can be safer pilots. But now we're going to talk about aeronautical decision making, which occurs in flight. So aeronautical decision making, it's a systematic approach to analyze changes that happen during a flight and how they affect like the safety of flight. ADM helps a pilot determine the best course of action in the given circumstances to improve flight safety. So we have these two different aeronautical decision-making processes. We have analytical and automatic. So analytical starts at situation, then goes into PAVE. So the first thing is that you detect that something has changed. You evaluate the event, what's going to happen, what kind of outcome do I want, how can I get there, what's the best action to do, and how did my action affect my decision. And then if the problem remains, you go back to the first stop detection. And automatic and naturalistic is more of like I've encountered this before, so I kind of know from personal experience how to fix it. So detection, evaluate the event. Is there any risk to my flight? What do I want the outcome desired? Take action. If the problem still remains, go back to outcome desired. So they're very similar, but one is a little bit more in detail depending on the situation. But you'll notice both of them start with detection. So it's really, really important for us as pilots to have situational awareness, because if you're not situationally aware, you can't even detect that something's wrong with your aircraft or with your environment or with yourself. So situational awareness is very important, and I'm sure you guys all know that, but that's the first step in detecting there's even an issue in your flight. So the first one we have is the 3P model. I think you guys probably heard of it. Perceive, process, and perform. So you perceive that there's a hazard. For example, there's a thunderstorm. You perceive that this is a significant hazard because if you fly into this, especially in a sling, you will get rocked about. So you decide that this is something that I need to address now. Process, you consider your options available to mitigate the threat. So what can you do? You can divert, you can turn back, change your flight path. I wouldn't fly above a thunderstorm, but you have to assess the pros and cons with each decision that you can make and choose the best decision to give you a desirable outcome. And then 3, perform. So after you choose which option, you execute the changes. This choice should lead to a safe outcome. And if it doesn't, you go back to the first P. So essentially, it's what's called a closed loop decision-making process. So if it doesn't work, you go back to the beginning and start the process over again. Decide. This one, we talked about this yesterday, actually, yeah. So decide, detect, to estimate, choose, identify, do, evaluate. So same thing, this one just has a few more steps. And this is just another closed loop process to manage any risks that occur during flight. Okay, single pilot resource management. So crew resource management is what they talk about in the airlines, but we obviously kind of act as single pilots. We don't really work with a crew. Obviously you have your CFI, but your CFI is training you to be a single pilot because they're not always going to be there. So SRM is the appropriate management of all resources available to the single pilot. So we have internal resources and external resources. We have our passengers, our POH, our checklists, our electronic flight bags like ForeFlight. External resources, you have ATC, VOR, DME, GPS, or even other pilots. So learning to recognize these resources is an essential part of SRM. You also need to evaluate whether or not there is time to use a particular resource and make sure that you are prioritizing your tasks and not overloading yourself when, especially during emergency situations. Also, planning and preparation improves SRM. If you are prepared for scenarios that may occur, you already know it's easier to determine the best course of action to have a safe flight. So for example, we're prepared for emergency situations, but if they do happen, we know exactly what to do in that situation. Does that make sense? Yeah. Okay, so this is what they call the 5P checklist, and it's kind of like a practical application for single pilot resource management, and it gives us a checklist to adequately plan for a flight. So the first P, plan the flight using NW Craft. Second P, plane, any mechanical issues, equipment on board, avionic capabilities, etc. Pilot, currency and proficiency, I'm safe, familiar with the aircraft, etc. Passengers, use your passengers to assist you in flight. Even if someone's not a pilot, they can still help you out. This is not, they can hold your things for you, hold your iPad, look out for traffic, let you know if you missed any calls, things like that. And also programming, making sure that you're familiar with your avionics, your GPS, the approaches you're going to fly, and the appropriate level of automation to use with autopilot. Oh, okay, this actually does not apply for you guys, really. This is for the actual check ride. Teaching risk management, yeah. Yeah. Okay, so any questions on what we just talked about? Risk management and ADM, kind of all makes sense. Makes sense how important this is for us, right?
I have a question.
Go ahead.
A question about just the NOTAM at the airport right now.
Oh, yeah.
We can still fly with the practice area, with the testing area?
PF on the airport for it, or notice on the airport for it.
Yeah, I know, but
The testing thing,
what does that mean?
I asked about last time, it's like an FAA plane that
Mhm.
flies in the area and checks the tower operations,
Mhm.
checks the ITP.
So we can still fly, it's just like a cautionary thing.
Last time we had the in the air as the FAA plane was coming in.
Oh, that's fine.
Is it like a cool plane?
It's kind of like one,
Kind of what?
it's kind of like one.
Oh, fun. Wish I could fly a plane. That's cool. So, yeah, that answered your question. Great, guys, thanks. Anybody else have any questions? No? Yeah, what's up?
Might as well ask, so for the 5P checklist,
Mhm.
3P thing, and just in general, what type of things would you expect to be asked on a check ride?
honestly, they are probably not gonna ask you any of this, like, okay, no, that's not true. 3P and decide, if they ask you about risk management, they're probably gonna ask you like, what's your approach to like ADM or risk management in flight? Or how can you manage risks during flight? The 3P or decide model, you can talk about that, like, oh, in flight, I would use the decide model, detect, to go through and kind of give an example of like, this is how I would approach this in flight. They probably won't ask about the 5P checklist at all. They don't really focus on those kind of things, I would say, during check. I've never been asked that before personally. But they're good things to know. Like, even if something's not asked on a check ride, these are still important things to know for your own personal safety and just to be a better.
Got it.
Does that make sense?
And then for the 5P checklist,
Mhm.
is that any different than the PAVE checklist?
It's kind of, that's actually funny you bring that up, because it's not that different. It's very similar. I think it's just another way for us to kind of cover all our bases, like including passengers and programming. And the plane itself is all of this. Most of this is included on the PAVE checklist. I don't know, I would say that PAVE is more so for the overall, like, how do I word this? PAVE versus 5P. I would say that PAVE is also like practical application for single pilot resource management. So they kind of work hand in hand. Yeah, if that makes sense.
Yeah, for just looking at it and looking at the information it displays, it's pretty much just going through the PAVE checklist twice.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, great question. Anything else, guys? No? Cool, cool. Feel like we learned a lot today. No, yeah, yeah. Cool. Okay, if there are no questions, that is it for today. I'm pretty sure. Yeah, that's all I have. Tomorrow we're taking a quiz in class. Yay. So much fun. We'll go over the quiz. And then if you guys have any questions from this week, you can bring that in. We can do some review stuff. If not, I'm kind of start going through like the holds and arc space check and just like going through each of those topics and covering those. Yeah, cool. All right, guys, that's it for me then today. Thank you.